Here is our insulation exhibit wall at LaHouse showing a wide variety of types of insulation properly installed so that you'll actually get the benefits that you're paying for. We're accustomed to batt insulation, but it is often very poorly installed. This is the way it should look. Very smooth, completely filling the space and in direct contact with the sheathing, with the interior wall on all 6 sides. For an insulation to be effective, it needs to have that air barrier in contact with it all 6 sides in a wall system. A craft-faced batt insulation is a good choice in North Louisiana where you have some winter, but here in South Louisiana, we would recommend, if you're going with a batt product, to use the unfaced batt. We don't want or need a vapor retarder of any type on the interior side. Moisture moves from out to in. Everything will flow and dry better if it is unfaced. Plus, unfaced batts are friction fit. Generally, you often get a better installation because with the craft paper, what many contractors do is they press it in and they side staple. That actually causes compression and creates a void and an air current, and it reduces the effectiveness of that insulation. So with batt products, every penetration, wires, plumbing, you need to split the insulation and put it around to avoid any compression and to avoid any voids. Yes, it takes added effort, added workmanship. You may need to pay extra to have it installed properly according to good energy performance standards. This type of batt insulation is another option. This is actually cotton insulation that is made from recycled blue jeans. So it's a recycled product and it's very safe to handle and to touch with bare hands, whereas you do need to use gloves. But even the fiberglass industry has come out with types of fiberglass insulation that don't off-gas formaldehydes like previous ones did, and that are easier and safer to handle with less personal protection. The cotton insulation has a very similar R value to the batts. The batts come in various R values and densities at different price performance points. So in a 3.5-inch stud space of a 2x4 wall, you can get anywhere from an R11 to 13 to R15 for a higher end batt as well. An alternative to batts that gives excellent coverage is what's called a blown-in blanket system, or bibs. There is a mesh that is just strung across the studs to kind of hold it in, and then loose fill fiberglass is dense packed to a certain density to create an R value up to 15. The advantage of this is full coverage without voids and without compression and around all the little obstructions that may be in a wall. So when a home is being rated for an energy certification or some of the incentive programs that are out there, it's rated according to how well it meets installation standards of being in full contact with the air barrier on all 6 sides. Easier to achieve that, achievable with any insulation, but the bibs is one good way to do it. Another way to do it is with the spray applied products. So generally any of the spray applied insulations will give full even coverage around all the obstructions that may be in a wall. So you may get better performance for the same R value than with the cut and fit, relying on workmanship with some other insulations. So it's a good option. The cellulose type is what was utilized in most of the framed section of LaHouse. It's recycled newspaper, so it's a green recycled material mixed with borates. The borates are the fire retardant, but they also give it some resistance to mold. Bugs don't like borates, so it has those advantages, and it it can absorb a little bit of extra moisture in the system and release it later, dissipate it. So it's an excellent product for our area. The spray cellulose insulation has an adhesive mixed in it. When combined with water, it becomes like a spongy, stabilized material. So it won't settle and it will fill that space. However, it is damp, so it is important to allow it to dry before closing up the wall. Allow it to dry to a certain level before closing up the wall, and to not over wet it. So properly trained and experienced contractors should be used to install damp spray cellulose insulation. The other spray alternative, they do have spray products now with fiberglass as well as with rock wool that mix with an adhesive and have similar performance. The other option are the spray foams, spray urethane foams. There are several types, and we show with different types of formulations, but two major categories are the open cell spray foams and the two closed cell spray foams are shown here. The open cell foam has a similar R value to the other insulations, but in addition to R value, it air seals. So it creates an air barrier, and you don't need to do other measures to provide that air barrier wherever you do have the spray foam. So it creates a very tight building envelope. It does cost more than the other insulations, but that air barrier comes with it. The cellulose might cost maybe 20–25% more, but it may give you 30% better performance than a typically installed batt product. The spray foam will give a very tight construction. The open cell foam is vapor permeable. You fill the space with it. There may be some waste, and it does tend to cost about double what a batt product might cost in the installed cost. And a professional who knows what they're doing must do it. The roof here was done with open cell. We would recommend in our climate zone open cell under the roof deck. I think is a lower risk product just in case there's any vapor drive inward. The walls can be either open cell or closed cell, but as we discussed before, under a raised floor, we would recommend closed cell. Also, if you're wanting to build or insulate for that wash and wear concept, a flood hardy, flood resistant type of building system, you would also need to use the closed cell product. Closed cell foam costs about twice what the open cell. It uses more product, but it has a higher R value. So wherever you need those properties of more R value per inch, or you need it to be flood resistant, or you need it to be more vapor impermeable, that's the place to spend the extra money on the closed cell foam. The knee walls and the walls, the 2x4 walls on the back side of the living room of LaHouse have foil-faced foam to provide that rigidity and that extra insulation, as well as the radiant barrier benefit as well. Another type of insulation system, which is not conventional insulation, is the idea of a radiant barrier. In our climate, just as we discussed behind the brick veneer, in addition to having insulation, having an airtight building envelope, the other important factor in our climate is to reduce that solar heat gain, to reduce the radiant heat that you feel from the sun or from hot materials. And in doing so, products that are effective are low E windows, the reflective roofs like we have with the cool color metal roof, the radiant, the foil-faced foam on the walls behind brick veneer, and here we show a radiant barrier under a roof deck. This is a foil material that is just applied, just stapled to the underside of the rafters. This is an easy retrofittable material, something people can even do themselves, and shiny side down. The shiny side down keeps it from getting dusty, and it still works. It's not reflecting, it's a low emissivity product, so it keeps that radiant heat from coming through. So it will keep a vented attic much cooler than it would be otherwise, reduce the heat gain to the insulation on the floor, reduce the heat gain to any ductwork or air handling system or air conditioner that may be in the attic. So it is something that can be done inexpensively, can be retrofitted, which is a good solution for vented attics.